everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Perspectives. I'm Tara.
And I'm Leslie.
Unfortunately, Kimberly is not with us today, but Leslie and I are going to be talking about a topic, and that is who we are is not who we were. Have you ever paused to reflect on how much you've changed over the years? For me, it's really fascinating to consider how the person I was 10, 5, or even a year ago is so different from who I am today. In this episode, we're going to be exploring the various ways we've evolved, the significant experiences that may have shaped us, and the valuable lessons we've learned along the way. So we'll probably be sharing some personal stories of growth, discussing those important moments that spurred our transformations, reflecting on the importance of acknowledging and celebrating personal progress. Change is a natural and inevitable part of life, but it's not always easy to recognize or appreciate when we're really in the midst of it. Our hope is that by sharing our journeys, we can inspire you to look back on your own path and see just how far you've come. This is Unfiltered Perspectives, where real talk leads to real growth, and every perspective is valued. Leslie?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you for that, Tara. I say it every week. You always give us a great intro into our topics. So let's get into it, Tara. What do you have for us today?
Well, I guess just to start us off, maybe we should ask, what exactly do you think, or what does personal growth mean to you? And how do you think you've seen it play out in your own life?
Wow. Personal growth. Learning from experiences, I guess, is the first thing that comes to mind. It's interesting because when you brought up this topic, I was talking to your cousin, my niece, yesterday, Talitha. And the one thing that came to mind was talking about how I respond to things or react to things. Because, first of all, there's a difference between responding and reacting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling her how I, in the past, would go from, I don't know why I always think about Aunt Nita when I talk about this, how I would go from 0 to 100 in seconds. And although some people might disagree, I don't feel like I do that anymore, or at least not as much. I think that I'm much calmer. I think that I'm capable of listening more and talking less, and just trying to understand other people's opinions and perspectives more. And it's helping me to just not be angered so quickly. And that actually takes growth, comes from listening. So that's one way I feel like I've grown, I've changed. Another area where I feel like I've grown is acceptance. By that I mean of myself, how I view myself, how I see myself. And that's just physically. And I won't go into that too much because I do know that we have an episode coming up about body image.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I won't go into that too much, but just how I see myself and how I'm learning to accept myself, but not in such a way that I don't want to change, but just loving, as people say, so cliche, but loving the skin I'm in. So that's just a couple of examples.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Well, I think when I think about my own personal growth, I think about it on several different fronts. One of them is my spiritual growth, because for a long time, I grew up going to church, but I wouldn't really say that I was particularly religious. I believe in God, always have, but it wasn't something that was, or, my faith wasn't something that was at the forefront of my life. It was always there just in the background kind of thing. I would say over the past few years, I have made it a point to, and I'm not really sure exactly what the impetus was, what caused me to just really embrace it wholeheartedly. But that is something that I've done. I've come to make it a very, 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 I guess I would say, primary part of my life and part of my just daily existence, which is something. And in doing so and seeking to grow closer and to develop a relationship with God and to just understand where I stand right now by, doing the things that I do, that I feel that it has affected a really positive change in how I see my place in the world and how I interact with people, and just how even as far as like how I think and the things that are important to me. Another thing, as far as my own personal growth is concerned, is I used to be, to some extent, I have a lot of patience for a lot of things, but I also find sometimes that my temper burns really hot, so to speak. And I do have a low, for certain things, I have a low tolerance, but I have been learning to exercise more patience, I guess, than I used to. I try not to get as upset about things. And when I do, I now have tools that I use to kind of calm myself down.
Mm-hmm.
Another area is I used to be like, and I think I might still be really introverted and shy and soft-spoken and all of those things. But I found that as I've gotten older, I have made it a point to try to, and I think I've mentioned this in the past, like come out of my shell and be
Mm-hmm.
more comfortable expressing myself, be more comfortable trying new things, be more comfortable not always being content to, I guess, hide in the background or let
Mm-hmm.
other people stand in front of me and that peeking around
Mm-hmm.
mama's skirts kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that has been something that I guess may have been hindering me from achieving certain things in the past. But now
Yeah.
that I'm not going to say slightly, now that I've grown in confidence, I guess, and
Mm.
grown more comfortable in the skin I'm in, right?
Yeah.
I don't do that as much, and I'm much more apt to, I don't know, be the first one, I guess, to approach
Yeah.
somebody, be the
Yeah.
first one to start a conversation. Whereas before I'd hang back and let other people approach
Yeah.
me first.
Yeah.
So that is definitely something. So,
Yeah. And as you were talking about the spiritual growth, because I think you and I are both in that same place. I definitely am. And, I'm sure, I think rather that you would agree that that has a lot to do with how we grow in other areas. And it makes us available to grow socially in
mhm.
social settings and step out into areas where we may not have otherwise. And because we are also related, have so many listening to you, you were saying what I was thinking, and we are evolving in the same way.
Mhm.
And we have so many similarities because I too, that little shy side of us, that quiet side of us, and we have both have come out of this shell, so to speak. So I see so many similarities. And we're also so close in age. It's so crazy to see. But I'm hearing you saying the same things, just a little bit more eloquently.
No.
Uh, but yeah, it's very similar. It's very similar. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm stepping out into some things that I wouldn't normally be afraid to do. But why not, right?
Yeah, why not? So the next question I have here is, can you tell us about a time when you realized you had moved past an old way of thinking or behaving?
Something it may sound a little bit silly, but if you're kind of reserved and kind of shy and don't like rejection and all that, like I said, it may sound a little bit silly, but because I'm usually not the first person to speak or step out and introduce myself to someone. I was at a social event and there was a young lady that was working there and she had asked me to save a seat for her mom. And of course, that was fine for me to do or whatever. And I saved a seat. And later, a table became available for us, for me and the person that I was actually with. And I wasn't going to leave her sitting there. And typically, I would have just out of being just kind of shy and having social anxiety. So, first of all, I was able to get past the anxiety and even go to the event, right? But then I went over and introduced myself to the young lady, and then I invited her over to the table. And boy, we chatted it up the whole time, which was another step, right? Then find out I'm here in Florida, but we were from the same area. that I grew up in,
Wow.
which opened up an opportunity for her to invite me to a networking event, and now
Wow.
we've kind of, stayed in touch or whatever. But it just was an opportunity for me, an amazing woman that led to me meeting more amazing women and networking opportunities or whatever. But it's just, like I said, it just opened up an opportunity for networking and meeting great women and just kind of getting me out of this thing where I get caught up in this social anxiety and not
Mhm.
wanting to meet people because I just get so, overwhelmed. But I found myself doing that more and more and more. And I actually now have an event coming up as a result of that, but that's for another time.
Wow.
But I'm just going to keep getting out there and doing it.
Good. That's impressive. For myself, I think that it has been slowly growing. Like once I had my son he'll be 22. Oh my gosh, in a couple of weeks. And even up until even when he was born, all that stuff, even through my career as an attorney presenting cases to judges and juries and things like that, I still had that reserve. I still had that quietness and that I'm not going to approach anybody first kind of, I guess, character or personality. But once I had him and not wanting him to have that, I can't really say it was a debilitating shyness, but just such a reserve that I was, okay, I'm just gonna say, I used to be so quiet in school that, the friends that I did have, I was like, they weren't very many, but other people like, how can you be friends with her? Does she even talk to you? So she's like,
Yeah.
they wouldn't even know the sound of my voice kind of thing.
Mhm.
But once I had him, I realized that as a mom who, you know, I didn't want him to go through the same kinds of things that I went through or to have that same kind of personality, just being maybe afraid to talk to people, afraid to approach people just because I'm not even sure why, afraid of judgment, afraid that my voice wouldn't be heard for whatever reason. But once I had him, once he started, going to school and things like that, I made an effort. I actually would practice approaching people, practice being more social and outgoing so that he could see that and that he could emulate that so
Mhm.
that, there wouldn't be those same drawbacks. I don't know how successful I was, but I made the effort. I made
Yeah.
the effort to do that. And so I think I would say that that was probably when I first started noticing that I was letting go of old behaviors and I did and it wasn't just a natural thing. It was something I actually had to work at because being this other person or this person I've become or am becoming was not something that was natural to
Yeah.
me. Yeah. So, but I wanted to say that in reading and thinking about this, I was reading scripture and First Corinthians 13:11
There
says, when
you
I
go.
was a child, I spoke like a child. I
Mhm.
thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. And I feel like that is probably like the closest thing that I could find to compare to how I was. I was still in that little girl mindset, afraid of the world, so sort
Right.
of. But I came out of that. It involved embracing maturity. It involved recognizing and letting go of my old, less effective ways of
Right.
thinking and behaving.
Yeah. And a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, I know I said it already. I'm 55. I don't care if people knows that. 56 in a few weeks. And I'm so blown away by how so much alike we are. It's literally blowing my mind. Jordan turned 17 yesterday. And what you're saying about you and my nephew, yeah, because Jordan's my quiet child. And if Jordan could be alone, he would. He would be 24/7. And I just dropped him off today because he's going to an away camp with our church. And the last thing I said to him was, go make friends. Go make friends.
Yeah.
And he loved going to Wednesday night youth services and everything. But I was like, did you make any friends there? Did you mean, yeah, I talk to people, but I know what that means. He said he talked to people. He probably said hi. That means, you know, and when we're out, I do it for two reasons. I let him see me talk to people all the time. One, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businesswoman, and I want him to own something. I want him to see that side of it. I want him to see me interacting and networking and all of that. But I just want to be an example of showing him, how to communicate with people, how to talk to people. It's okay.
Mhm.
I want to push him to interact with people because he just will not. When we talk about him getting a job and we go into certain places and he was like, no, it's too peoply. It's too peoply. So yeah, I don't want him to go through life like I did, avoiding conversations and avoiding interacting with people. Because as much as I was able to avoid people, I did.
Mhm.
If I didn't have to talk to them, I didn't talk to them. So, but yes, that's the last thing I said to him was go make some. Please come back and tell me that you met all 138 other youth because the other one, he knows one other person that went and that was his girlfriend. So please tell
Mhm.
me at 138 interacted with 138 teenagers. So yeah, I get it. I understand it. I'm there.
How do you decide which parts of your past are worth keeping and which ones you need to let go of?
We can let go all of mine.
Okay.
That's wow. Mm, wow. I don't think you've ever asked me a question I couldn't answer.
I stumped you.
Okay. Which parts of your past are worth keeping?
How do you decide which parts are worth?
I don't even have an answer because if you've already learned from them, do you keep them? Are they still necessary? Do you let them go?
Is that how you decide?
And if you haven't learned from them, do you keep them long enough to learn from them and then let them go? I don't know. That's my answer. My answer is I don't know. Maybe once you answer, you will have taught me something. So go for it.
Listen, I'm asking the questions here. Which
Oh, is
parts
that
of my
right?
which parts are worth keeping and which ones you need to let go of? I think that you need to let go of anything that does not serve you, does not add positive influence in your life. The parts that are worth keeping for me are the ones, like you mentioned before, the ones that I've learned from. Like I've learned that if I make a mistake, the world, the ground is not going to open up and swallow me. So it's okay to make mistakes. If I have a difficulty, learning that you will get through it, you'll get through it, you'll get past it, not to just sit in it and wallow in it. That's something that I learned from. And I think it's worth keeping it. And anything that has served a purpose in my life, a positive purpose in my life, I think is worth keeping. Anything that has only had negative, only produced heartache, only produce something that I'd be ashamed of or that detracts from who I am or who I want to be, I let go of.
But how do you let it go though? You know what I mean? If it's negative and it impacts you in such a way, how do you let it go? Well, that may be for another day.
It might be for another day. My question was only how you decide to. How do I let it go? It would honestly, it depends on what that thing is. If it's something that I can just say, you know what? If it's something that you can just like stop cold turkey, you can stop it cold turkey. If it's something that you need to go through therapy to work out, then that's what you do. If it's a conversation that need to be had so that you can then let it rest, then that's what needs to be done. It depends on, I guess, whatever that particular thing is or that part of your past is that is only negative, that doesn't have any kind of positive to it. And those things can vary depending on severity, depending on,
Often,
but those are the things I would let go.
okay, gotcha.
The next question is, when you are working on growing and changing, how do you find support or advice?
I call you what? 24/7. 1-800 Tara.
No.
Oh my goodness. We laughing, but I'm so serious.
That doesn't always serve you very well. So
It pretty much does 99% of the time until she says something that hits a nerve, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna call you later, okay?
yeah, you're like, I got it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you later.
And she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Next time, don't ask me.
Well then.
No, but seriously, I do. I have, my support system, and Tara is one of a handful. I have a prayer line that is also my support. I have my first line of support, which is God, scripture, music, that's what I have. And
Mhm.
so I'm hoping that Tara and the listeners know what your support is. And if you don't know what your support is, let's tap into it and find out what that support is.
I love your answer because I do something similar. I think that where you find support advice really depends on what your circle is or what feeds you and nurtures you. And for me, that is talking to people specifically. Firstly, my husband, my parents, you, my friends, my son, my siblings, whoever that is, or those people are that I can hear and I can take what they say to me I was going to say in a positive way, but sometimes it's not always positive, but I can take what they have to say and share and apply it to my life to allow those changes that need to be made happen. And in one of those sources that I turn to, as you all know, is my scriptures. And Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6 tells us, it gives us a very clear, or gives me a very clear guideline. And that is, in all your ways, acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths. And for me, that just says that it just connects the idea of seeking guidance through aligning whatever my actions, my thoughts, whatever, with what I think it is that God wants. Like acknowledging and seeking his guidance in every aspect of my life helps me to make sure that what I'm doing is on track with what I believe his plan for me is. So I think that when I do that, it leads me to have clearer direction. And what I've learned, that I've seen that since I've been, and like I may have mentioned this before, it's a newer kind of journey for me because seeking to align with God's will and all that stuff is something that I have not really done all my life. But
Mm-hmm.
now that it is something that it's important to me that I have been doing, I feel more fulfilled. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely feel more fulfilled. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also wanted to add, because I don't want to come off as a hypocrite. We're blessed if we have a support that we can reach out to, and please reach out, because sometimes we have the support and we still don't reach out. I had a situation recently, I'm not going to go into detail, where I did not reach out to my support system, and it could have ended badly. It did not, thank God. But I talk about my support system, but I needed to reach out to them and I didn't. So if you have the support system, know that they're there for you and reach out.
yeah.
I don't want to say, oh, I do reach out, because yeah, they're there, and I didn't take advantage of that. So, you know,
No.
I'd be yeah, she's getting on me. I'd be a hypocrite if I said I reach out to my support system, and I prayed this day and I called this person, because this time I did not. So please reach out when you need help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And a big part of that is to make sure or try to make sure that you build strong relationships. Like surround yourself with people and who are supportive, people who inspire you, people who you feel or you can trust to have your back no matter what. Even when you don't care to hear what they have to say, you know that they're there in your corner and they won't let you fall. That's especially important when you are trying new things. You don't want to feel like you're out on a limb, and if you fall, then you're just going to crash. You know that there'll be people there to help support you, to help lift you up, and I don't know if I used this before, but I kind of like think of a support system as some people think of it as a net. I kind of think of it kind of like almost like a trampoline where like as when you fall into a net, you like fall and it cushions the blow before you reach the ground. But a trampoline, you have that, but it helps to, you know, push you back up. It elevates you again. So it's not just going to catch you, but it'll catch you, support you, and then catapult you again.
I
So
like that.
that's what I like.
I like that. Look at you.
Thank you.
We should end there.
But we're not going to, because I have more tough questions for you.
Oh. Oh, tough. You have tough questions?
No,
for
they're
me?
not.
Okay.
They're not tough. They're not tough. What do you do to stay motivated when you hit a roadblock or when you face challenges? I don't know if that's part of the same question, but
kind of is. Same thing that we just talked about. Yesterday in particular, I went to music.
Went to music? What do you mean?
I put on some music. I just needed to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a good time. Yesterday, music was the motivator. Sometimes, like I said before, if I have an event coming up, I get excited about planning things. So it really just depends on the day. Sometimes I shop.
Yeah, that's dangerous for me, man.
Yeah, it really just depends on the moment, the day, the mood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of listening to music. Like I like all kinds of music, but
yeah. And I mean, I blasted it too. Jordan was looking at me like I was not from this planet. And plus, it was old school too, so he had no idea.
Oh, you know what? One of the other things that I didn't mention about resources, I guess, or where do you turn to when you are trying to change is I also like to do a lot of research in reading. I like read pretty much anything I can find, especially, don't look at me like that, especially if it's a new endeavor or something that, I decide I want to do my own self. I like to call myself a lifelong learner because I try to never stop learning something new. People make fun of me like, oh, you go to Google for everything. But yep, I sure do. Because there's no reason in the world for anything to exist and I not know about it if I want to. I don't need to ask Joe Blow. I just go to, I can find sources online and I can dive deeper into research and this is kind of nerdy, but read like scientific studies. Don't look at me like that.
No,
a novel is bad enough, and now you talk about scientific studies. Yes, I do that.
I'm not looking at you that particular time. There's reason. I Google everything too. TJ is like, oh my gosh, she's like a Google queen. I will Google anything. If a conversation comes up and I want answers, I will Google anything. And at the risk of sounding dumb, you know how I feel about reading. I'm sorry. I don't know who did this to me. I don't know whose fault it is. Maybe there's just so much stuff going on here. I can't just take in any more information. But yeah, I Google everything.
Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with that. And like, it's not like I like go to like one source and like, oh yeah, this will now form my opinion of something. I research things every which way, up, down, side by side, side to side, backwards, forwards, because I'm not gonna let one person's view shape my own. I need to get into this and form my own decisions. But also that is a part of what I'm talking about when I say that who I was is not who I am now, because yes, there are so many things in the world going on, or so many topics, so many everything, so much information out in the world that it used to be that you can remain in ignorance about a lot of them and be perfectly happy. But that's not me. That is not me. I like to learn. I like to know, and I like to grow. And that's how you grow, by learning new things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So for the question of what do you do to stay motivated when you hit roadblocks or face challenges, the scripture that I found for this particular question was Romans chapter 5, verses 3 and 4, which says, not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And I think a way to look at that one is that it relates to building resilience and character through our challenges. And that if we reflect on that scripture, it is about growth, because, some people say what doesn't challenge you won't make you stronger, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think there are other ways to get stronger. But yeah, I think that it does. A lot of times when you have been through something difficult, something hard, and you have found a way to work through it, you have found a way to conquer it, you never have to be in a position where you no longer know how to deal with it, because you can say, hey, I dealt with this hard thing and look how I came out. Look where it took me. So
Know the week I just had.
once you go through it, I mean, I'm not talking about your particular situation,
Right. In general, yeah.
but I think when we have difficulties, they are opportunities to growth because they give us opportunities to learn. They give us opportunities to test our metal, so to speak, and to recognize that. I think probably like the example I used before, that if it didn't take you out, then you could just
Because
keep on trucking.
some things are so hard that a lot of things that come after that is a walk in the park.
Mm-hmm.
It's a walk in the park.
Was it Nelson Mandela that said something like, everything seems impossible until you do it,
Mm.
or until
Mm.
it's done, or something like that? So,
Yeah, I get it. This was good.
yep. The only other thing that I wanted to add is a list of practical tips for personal growth.
Let's hear 'em.
Okay. Set realistic goals for yourself that you can, ones that we can, you can see your progress along the way. And like I mentioned for myself before, try to develop self-awareness, because once you do that, when you can reflect on your thoughts and your emotions and your past behaviors, and one of the ways that I like to do it is through journaling, through meditation, and also, and some people don't like this part, but try to maybe get feedback from other people. That can be dicey sometimes because you're not always going to like what you hear. But I think that if you're open to having or getting feedback from other people, then it can help you have a better understanding of yourself. Because
Mhm.
sometimes how you see yourself is not how other people see you. And sometimes you have to figure out like where that dissonance, where it comes from.
Mhm.
Definitely try to develop positive habits.
Mhm.
I think we all try to do that. Those are some things. Be kind to yourself. Have
Ex-
self-compassion for
yeah.
yourself. Recognize that this growth thing is a journey. It has ups, it has downs, it has steps forward. Sometimes it has steps backwards, but always remember to celebrate the small things, celebrate the things that you're able to do, and forgive yourself for mistakes. That's it. Forgive yourself for mistakes. Try to stay motivated. It's not always easy, but and one way to do that is like to regularly look back at where you were. Notice that progress has been made. And sometimes, a lot of times, that should be enough to say, okay, I'm moving forward. I'm doing something here. We're good. But also, don't be afraid to challenge yourself, because it's easy to stay put. It's easy to just stay where your comfort is. And when you grow by getting outside of that. You grow by making strides, not just by hunkering down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Tara. I love that you gave our listeners practical tips for personal growth. Tara is a life coach. So to bring that part of her expertise to you guys, I certainly appreciate her sharing that part of what she does with us all. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for joining us for today's episode. We hope that it is clear that our journey of progress, or journeys of progress, are ongoing. Who we were is not who we are, and who we are now is not who we will be in the future. Embracing change, learning from our experiences, and continually striving to grow are what make life so enriching and sometimes a lot of fun. Remember, every step you take, no matter how small it may seem, contributes to your personal evolution. So celebrate your progress no matter where you are on your journey. Take pride in the person that you've become and look forward to the growth ahead. Again, thank you for tuning in to Unfiltered Perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with friends. Be sure to look for a new episode every Thursday morning. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast so that you never miss an episode.
Thank you once again for joining us. Please continue to follow us on Facebook at Unfiltered Perspectives. Look for updates on Tara's podcast coming up, Raw, RW, Relationships or Work. Please look for the journals coming as well. We will see you next time on Unfiltered Perspectives. I am Leslie.
And I'm Tara.
And Kimberly will be back with us next week. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.
Bye.